The crisp autumn air bit at Sarah's cheeks as she pushed open the brass-trimmed door of Marcello's. Her 7-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, bouncing excitedly on either side of her. The Italian restaurant had been their favorite back when life was simpler, when the word divorce wasn't yet part of their vocabulary, when Daddy still came home every night. Now, 3 years later, Sarah had built an empire. Her tech startup had just been valued at $40 million. But success tasted hollow when her children still asked why their father never called. "Mommy, can I get the spaghetti with the funny name?" Ethan tugged at her cashmere coat, his gap-toothed smile melting her heart as it always did. "Carbonara, sweetheart." "And yes, you absolutely can." Sarah smoothed his unruly brown hair. The same shade as hers, the same shade as... Her breath caught in her throat. There, in the corner booth near the kitchen, sat a man who looked achingly familiar, yet disturbingly foreign, Michael, her ex-husband. But this wasn't the confident architect who had walked out on their family because he needed to find himself. This was a ghost of that man, hollow-cheeked, wearing a dishwasher's apron splattered with marinara sauce, his once pristine hands scrubbing down a recently vacated table with mechanical precision. Their eyes met across the candle-lit restaurant. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Sarah's first instinct was to grab the twins and leave, to protect them from seeing their father reduced to this, to protect herself from the complicated tangle of emotions, rising in her chest: anger, pity, vindication, sorrow. She had every right to walk away. He had abandoned them when Emma needed surgery for her heart condition, when the medical bills were piling up, when Sarah was working 3 jobs and coming home to find collection notices stuffed in their mailbox. "Ma'am?" The hostess smiled politely. "Your table is ready." Emma had already spotted him. "Mommy, that man looks like..." "This way, please." Sarah's voice came out sharper than intended as she guided her children toward a table on the opposite side of the restaurant, her heart hammering against her ribs. But Ethan had stopped dead in his tracks. "That is Daddy!" His voice rang out clear as a bell in the momentary lull of dinner conversation. Every head in the restaurant turned. Michael froze, his cleaning rag suspended mid-wipe, his face draining of what little color it had. Sarah watched him age 10 years in 10 seconds. The twins broke free from her grasp and ran to him, their small bodies colliding with his legs. Michael dropped to his knees, pulling them into an embrace so desperate it made Sarah's chest ache. She could see his shoulders shaking, could see Emma's tiny hand patting his back the way Sarah used to comfort her during thunderstorms. "Daddy, where have you been?" Emma's innocent question cut through the restaurant's resumed chatter. "We missed you so much." Sarah approached slowly, each step a war between the woman who had clawed her way out of poverty and the girl who had once loved this broken man with her whole heart. Up close, she could see the purple shadows under his eyes, the way his hands trembled, the white scar running along his forearm that hadn't been there before. "Sarah," his voice cracked on her name. I didn't know you came here." "I would have..." He gestured helplessly at his apron, his face flushing with shame. "Switched shifts?" She finished coldly. He flinched but nodded. "Kids, go wash your hands," Sarah instructed gently. "We'll be at that table over there." She pointed to where the hostess was waiting, clearly uncomfortable with the unfolding drama. When the twins reluctantly headed toward the restrooms, Sarah crossed her arms. "What happened, Michael? You were supposed to be living your best life in California. Wasn't that the whole point of leaving us?" He couldn't meet her eyes. "The architecture firm I joined went under 6 months after I started. I lost everything in a bad investment. Got sick, pneumonia that turned into something worse. Lost my apartment. He swallowed hard. "I tried to call so many times, Sarah, but what could I say? Sorry I abandoned you when you needed me most. And by the way, can you help me because I'm homeless now? So you came back here and didn't even tell your children you were in the same city." The anger she'd been suppressing bubbled up. "Do you have any idea how many times..." Emma cried herself to sleep, wondering if she did something wrong. "How many father-daughter dances Ethan sat out because he was too embarrassed to go alone?" Tears streamed down Michael's face. "Every single day I stood outside their school just watching them play at recess. Every single day I told myself I'd go to you tomorrow, that I'd be brave enough tomorrow. But look at me." He gestured at himself. I'm 42 years old, washing dishes in a restaurant, sleeping in a shelter. What kind of father shows up like this? The kind who shows up, Sarah said quietly. That's all they ever wanted. The manager appeared, frowning. Michael, your break ended 5 minutes ago. Back to the kitchen. Sarah watched Michael's face contort with humiliation. Watched him trying to hold on to the last shreds of his dignity in front of the woman who had once promised to love him forever. And in that moment, something shifted inside her. She thought about the therapist who had helped her work through her anger, who had taught her that forgiveness wasn't about excusing someone's actions, but about freeing yourself from the weight of carrying resentment. She thought about her own parents, who had divorced when she was young, how her mother's bitterness had poisoned every holiday, every graduation, every milestone. She thought about Emma's recent drawing from school, a family portrait with a conspicuous gap where a father should have been. Actually, Sarah said, turning to the manager, Michael won't be finishing his shift tonight. The manager's frown deepened. Excuse me? He has a family emergency. I'll ensure he's compensated for his time. She pulled out her phone. What's the owner's number? 20 minutes later, Sarah sat across from Michael in the booth while Emma and Ethan chattered excitedly between bites of pasta, blissfully unaware of the life-altering conversation happening around them. She had pulled strings, made calls, and yes, used her considerable resources to arrange, something that would have been unthinkable an hour ago. There's a project manager position at my company, she said, sliding a business card across the table. It's not architecture, but it's adjacent. Building project coordination for our new headquarters. It pays enough to get you back on your feet. There's no special treatment. You'll work for it, and you'll be accountable like everyone else. Michael stared at the card as if it might disappear. Sarah, I can't. After everything This isn't for you, she interrupted firmly. This is for them, she nodded toward the twins. They deserve to have their father in their lives, but only if you prove you can be the father they deserve. There will be conditions. Therapy, for you individually and eventually family therapy. Supervised visits at first. Consistency. If you miss one appointment, one visit. If you make one promise you don't keep. We're done, permanently. I understand. His voice was barely a whisper. I won't let them down again. I won't let you down. Don't make promises, Sarah said, but her voice had softened. Just show up. Day after day, just show up. Emma, oblivious to the gravity of the conversation, reached across the table and grabbed both her parents' hands. Daddy, can you have dinner with us every Friday, please? Sarah felt Michael's hand trembling under her daughter's small fingers. She saw the broken man in front of her. But she also saw something else, a flicker of hope, a desperate determination that reminded her of her own reflection, 3 years ago when she'd been at her lowest. We'll see, sweetheart, Sarah answered before Michael could make a promise he might not keep. But maybe we can start with once a month and go from there. As they finished their meal, Sarah insisted on ordering Michael a proper dinner. Watching him eat like a starving man trying to maintain composure, she realized that revenge had never tasted as sweet as she'd imagined it would. Watching Michael suffer hadn't healed her children's wounds, but maybe, just maybe, offering him a chance at redemption would. When they finally left the restaurant, Ethan, sleeping against Michael's shoulder as he carried him to Sarah's car, Emma holding both their hands, they looked almost like a family again. Not the family they'd been, perhaps. That was gone, shattered beyond repair. But maybe something new, something built on harder truths and harder-won grace. Thank you, Michael said as he carefully buckled Ethan into his car seat. I know I don't deserve this. Sarah looked at him over the roof of her Tesla. You're right. You don't. But they deserve a chance to know their father. And I deserve to show my children that. Success isn't measured by how much money you make or how powerful you become. It's measured by how you treat people when you have every reason not to. Driving home through the city lights, her children dozing in the back seat, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years, not quite forgiveness. Not yet, but perhaps its distant cousin, peace. She had chosen kindness when cruelty would have been justified, had offered a hand up when pushing down would have been easier, and in that choice, she had shown her children something more valuable than all the wealth in her bank account, that humanity at its core is measured not by how we treat those who can help us, but by how we treat those who once hurt us when they can no longer fight back. The story of the millionaire and her ex-husband would eventually become office legend at Sarah's company, whispered about in break rooms, debated over coffee. Some said she was too soft. Others said she was truly strong. But for Sarah, it was never about public opinion. It was about two 7-year-olds who went to sleep that night believing, perhaps for the first time in years, that broken things could be mended, that people could change, and that love, in all its complicated, messy, imperfect forms, was always worth the risk.